good evening. We're back for another episode here to share with you today. My name is Letitia Griffin, and I'm here for the next 30 minutes or so just to talk to you about any problems or issues that you may have regarding debt, finances, anything that you're struggling with. That's what I'm here for. So feel free to call in 312-738-1060. Now, if you do not get the chance to call in, but you still have questions, have a great resource for you. I want you to give Family Credit a call, 800-994-3328. Best possible resource you could ever use. Now, you see, I have listed there the website at familycredit.org. Please take advantage of that chat feature, and that way you can actually chat online with a counselor and get the information that you need regarding your finances and regarding your debt. So, I want you to take advantage of that and be sure that you use Family Credit for a resource. So, today we wanted to just take a minute to talk about a few different topics that a lot of people are having problems with. And of course, the credit is the most popular issue out there that people are struggling with, and credit is used to make things better. So we do have some questions on credit. I did ask for a few questions, and I got a couple of questions on budgeting, so we'll talk about that a little bit too. Again, feel free to give us a call, 312-738-1060. So a lot of times people, what I find is that people are struggling with what's the correct way to keep your credit together, what you should do to make things better for your credit. And a lot of times we look at our score and we don't really know how to make it better. So that's what we're going to take a few minutes talking about today. I had some great testimonials from clients that I spoke with even a few minutes ago that were keeping a great eye on their credit, knowing now what's too much and trying to control their finances with that. And pretty much credit is designed to fit your lifestyle. You need to design what your credit profile is to fit your lifestyle. So sometimes you may think you have too much debt, or you don't have enough, or your credit's just all bad. So you want to keep that in mind, that my credit is different from your credit. Everyone's credit is different. It just needs to fit your lifestyle. So when you look at your credit report, again, 3 different credit bureaus that we always talk about the most. They are Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. Notice I didn't say that they were the only bureaus that were out there, because there are other bureaus and other scores out there. But when we think about credit, the ones that we use are Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. Of course, TransUnion is the bureau that we use most here in the Midwest. So also keep that in mind too, that if you're looking at trying to fix your credit or get things together, 3 different bureaus. Let's start with one and get some things moving. So go ahead and pick up that first bureau, which look at your TransUnion report. Now, you can get all 3, of course, but it's best to start with one so that you know where you're going and what you're doing. Again, if you've got some problems with your credit, you can reach out to a counselor, 800-994-3328, and just get some great advice and actually get some help actually pulling your report. So that's the best part. Think about that. A lot of times you don't know where to go to get the report because you've got everybody out there saying that you can get the report from them. freecreditreport.com, free credit profile. There's so many different tools that are out there, and you wonder, are they really giving you the actual score? So nowadays, not so much. The best place that you can get your actual credit report and your actual credit score, the best place would be through the credit bureaus directly, or go to annualcreditreport.com. That is the one site that is used for all of the 3 bureaus to provide their reports and their scores to you. Now, you do have to pay for the score, but it's not that much. It's a reasonable cost. And then you just get your reports for free. And you want to do that every few months or so. Now, I say every 3 to 4 months, take a look at what your actual report is. There's so many different tools out there. And yes, you can continue using those tools to help you know what your score is, to give you an outline of what your score is and how you should be keeping track of everything. Use it to monitor. That's what you want to do. Use those tools for monitoring. But I do want you to, every few months or so, go pull your actual reports directly from the credit bureaus to make sure that all that information is correct, that it's updated, and that that you're knowing ahead of time what your credit profile actually looks like. So best place to do that, annualcreditreport.com, or directly with the credit bureaus, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. Each website is based off of their name, so just throw their name in the search engine and it'll come right up. Now, again, a lot of people wonder, how do you keep that credit looking good? And what's the credit made up of? So when you think about what your credit is made up of, you have to pay attention to the actual components that are there. So you've got your credit report, which has your name, it's got your public records information, also has your inquiries on it, and then it has your collections and what's called your trade items. Now your trades are where they keep record of all of the different accounts that you have, and then you've got your consumer statement. So those different segments make up your credit report. It's got so much information on there, and you want to make sure that it's accurate too. So look at everything that's on there, and from your name to your occupation. Sometimes it might show an old phone number, old addresses that are outdated, but you want your creditors to actually have accurate information. So feel free to check it out and update it as needed. And the best way for you to update that is by actually doing a dispute or submitting the dispute form on the website for the credit bureaus and asking them to update that information. So they can take care of that right away. Next thing, when you're thinking about your report and your score and making sure that everything looks good, pay attention to what's going on your actual report. It's so important that you understand each and every single component of your credit report and what's going on. And I know sometimes it looks like this jumbled information you really don't understand, but here's one thing that you want to pay attention to. Pay attention to the credit cards that you have listed there. So your accounts, making sure that their names are accurate and that is your account. And they'll give you a little brief snapshot of part of your account number. You shouldn't see the whole account number, but you should see part of your account number on there. So make sure it's your actual account. Next thing you want to pay attention to is the credit limit and the balance. This is something that's huge for you to pay attention to, because anytime your balance gets close to the credit limit, then your score begins to fall. And you don't want your score to fall, right? So you want to make sure that you're making your payments on time. Number one rule for improving your score, make sure you make your payment. Make it on time every single month. And that keeps your score in good standings. So you're paying attention to your credit limit and your credit and your balance on your credit account. And the reason why that's important, again, you don't want to look desperate to your creditors. A lot of times you'll find out that sometimes once you start getting under that credit limit or closer to that credit limit, hitting the walls of that credit limit, then your score starts to fall and you don't understand why. Sometimes you think that somebody could be reporting things there, but it could be something so simple as you just used your credit card. They haven't received your payment and now it's reporting that way. So now your credit limit is less than what it should be. Your available credit is less than what it should be. So keep that in mind whenever you use your cards, making sure you're making your payments on time each and every single month. You want to keep that positive. You want to keep that history going, and you don't want to fall delinquent. Now, sometimes we struggle and we can't make our payments. That's totally understandable. But when you find that you can't make your payment, first of all, you want to contact your contact your creditor and see when they report to the credit bureau. That's pretty good information to know, right? You know what your due date is. You know when you need to have your payment in there by, but what's the drop dead date that you need to have that in there before they report it to the credit bureau? Another thing you want to think about, how long do you have before the account is actually reported past due? Some creditors will allow for a grace period depending on what type of account it is. It could be an installment account. They may give you up to 10 or 15 days sometimes just to make that payment. A lot of revolving accounts such as credit cards, even though you're late right now, you might get a late fee. They're not reporting that to the credit bureau till next month. So technically they wouldn't be reporting that you're 30 days past due until you're like 2 months past due. But you want to know what that time frame is so that you can stay on top of things, because like I said, things can happen. You don't want to be caught, and you don't want to actually have that marked on your credit report as a negative or a derogatory on your credit report, because that's going to make your score fall too. So keep that in mind. You want to think about that. Think about the credit cards. Think about how the dates that you need to make your payment, and make sure that you have the money to actually make your payment. And again, if you can't make that payment, call that creditor, see if there's something they can do. A lot of times, creditors do have some options. They do have in-house options. They do have maybe hardship programs that they can help out with, or maybe they'll allow you to miss a payment. Don't worry. If you feel like you're still struggling though, and you don't know whether you should call the creditor, you don't want to talk to them, last time you tried, you didn't really get anywhere, you can reach out, contact a counselor, 800-994-3328, and they can actually help you, because guess what? They know your creditors. They know what the creditors will do, what kind of hardship arrangements can be set up, and they can help with that process. Again, we want to keep our credit in good standing, so reach out when you need that help. Next thing you want to think about is that I had a client that I spoke with earlier today, and she has been working on her credit for such a long time. We originally talked, she had 13 different credit cards, all with limits, a lot of them close to the limits. And so we talked about the best way for her to restructure everything and to go about, trying to make a plan to pay those things off and get her credit into a decent score. Well, what she realized is that she had too much credit and she couldn't handle it. So she just set off with the plan, and she's paying her debts, but what she decided to do on her own is to close some of her accounts. Now, I would never recommend that you close an account at all, no matter what, because guess what? That affects your credit profile, because you're taking away history then. But again, it's all about you and knowing what works best for you. If you feel like you're overwhelmed sometimes and having too much debt is bad for you, then you need to look at some options. Again, the counselors of Family Credit can help. You can call, you can get information from me right now, whatever the case may be. But keep in mind, your credit fits your situation. So we had the client where she closed the accounts, and keep in mind that once you do close your accounts, your credit takes a dive for a little bit until you start to rebuild. But because she was working on keeping the other accounts in good standings, she was able to rebound. Her score started to grow and to get better over time. But you have to make that conscious decision. Sometimes we have to do some things that might hurt us right now, but they end up making things better for us in the long run. Keep that in mind, because with your credit report, again, follows you for years and years and years. But your score only looks at the last 24 months, the most recent. It takes into account the most recent activity on your report. So even though we know that sometimes we may have to do some things such as closing an account, or such as, trying to pay something off to make things better for us right now, it might make our score fall, but guess what? It's going to rebound, because we are a work in progress. We're constantly working on our credit, and credit changes every day, just like our scenarios and our situations. So know that, yeah, maybe my score has fallen right now, but guess what? I'm going to work to get it back up. And that's the important thing. You continue to keep working and making things better for you based off of your own individual financial situation. Again, your situation isn't like mine isn't like yours, but it changes with us. And if we follow the tips that are out there, if we follow the guidelines and do things that way, then it'll work in our best interest. So what can we do to make sure that we've got a great score? Besides always constantly paying your bills on time, some things that we want to look at: spending money wisely, making sure we're making good decisions about the money we do actually spend. Also keeping in mind those things that we look to make purchases for. There's a lot of things that we want, but does it mean that we actually need them? Those are some things that we have to look at. What are What are every decision, financial decision that we make? Is it a want or is it a need? Is it something that I need right now, or can I put off this purchase until things are better for me? And then as a reward, maybe I can do that. Sometimes you might even have to cut out some of those things that you're doing on a daily basis as well. What are those spending leaks that we can actually tighten up on? What are those things that we can, stop, go cold turkey? And if you can't do that, maybe there's some kind of way for you to just stagger it out, or, use it as a reward. Case in point, if you love going to Starbucks, or if you love getting Dunkin' Donuts coffee in the morning, maybe something that you think about, how much am I actually spending towards that each and every single morning? How much does breakfast actually cost? And then you may want to say to yourself, okay, I'm going to stop doing that every single day, but if I do good during the week, maybe I'll just do it once a week. And you begin to discipline yourself. Yes, budgeting takes a lot of discipline. It really does, because it's not something that easily happens. We have to train ourselves constantly and modify our behavior so that we are able to reach our goals. But you keep that overall goal in mind, that yes, I want to have a better credit report. I want to have a better score. I want to save more money. I want to know where my money goes in the course of a month. And you begin to make those changes every single time. And guess what happens? Things work out better for you, because now your score is better, your report is strengthened, you've got more money in your pocket, and you've got less stress. That's something that I can't talk too much about, but having that weight lifted when you're dealing with your debt and your finances, and you're able to make great decisions towards your future, that feeling is overwhelming, and I guarantee you, you will love it. So, what's another thing that we can do? We can learn to live within our means. Now, you may say, well, that's more budgeting, right? But it really relates to your credit report and your credit score, because credit, a lot of times, it's there for a reason, but what do we think? Credit is there to get those things that we want now that we cannot really afford right now, right? So that's what we use it as. Not what it's really meant for, but that's what we use it as. Well, we can get what we want now and pay for it later. Well, having a positive payment history, a positive credit profile, that goes a long way. So even if you've got those open accounts, and you can say to yourself, even though I have this account here, I'm not going to use it. And that looks better for you. That's going to help you keep that great score that we're working so hard to get to. And even knowing that you learn to live within your means, that helps discipline you too for the future, so that when you got that great score, you want to keep things going. You want to keep that score. And so you learn not to even use everything else that's out there. So another thing that you want to look at is when you're thinking about your actual credit report, your credit score, your credit profile, if you've got a lot of the same debt, sometimes your score just sits stagnant. But you want to look at what type of debt do you have? What kind of credit mix is out there? And what type of, do you have different types of loans? Be it a car loan, you've got a mortgage, installment loan, credit cards. You don't want to just have the same thing every single time showing on your credit report too. You want to mix it up a little bit and look at your credit mix, because that does look at factor into your score too. So creditors want to see that you can handle a car note and a credit card responsibly, and that you don't abuse it, you don't go over what your limit is, and you keep things good, and you want to make sure that it's done decent and in order. So credit card companies, they appreciate that, and what will happen is they'll see that you're doing good with what they've given you, and they'll start sending you other offers. You'll also get offers for different types of loans, mortgage loans, auto loans. So keep that in mind. You want to make sure that those things are looking good on your end, and that's how you do it. Look at spending money wisely, living within your means, and of course, looking at the different credit mix that you have. So what's another tip that we have? When you're looking at your credit and you want to keep things decent and in order, you want to make sure that you monitor your credit. And what I mean by that, again, we talked about how with the credit card companies, or with the credit bureaus, there are different tools that they're offering. Some of the credit card companies are offering to help you monitor your credit. You've got different tools out there, such as Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, that you can use, and you want to use those wisely. Again, Still go to annualcreditreport.com throughout the year. Make sure that the report looks stellar, but keeping an eye on your credit score each and every single day, that's pretty important. Now, I'm not saying look at it every single day. Some people do that. If you've got those tools out there and you use them, I want you to use them. But also keep in mind that when you're using those tools, they're there to help you. In the event something happens, a lot of times they will send you an alert if a new credit account is established or opened. They'll send you alerts once something is paid off. And they keep track of everything there as far as what your balance is, your payments, and all of that. But sometimes that information, you have to keep in mind that because it's not coming directly from the credit bureaus, it may not be as accurate as it could be. And a lot of times that's done because those different tools, the different companies that are out there, they're called resellers. If it's not directly from the credit bureau, you're getting it from a reseller. And because it's being sold again to them, it might be a little bit outdated. So you might see that you've made a payment this month, but it doesn't show up on, let's say, your Credit Karma Credit Sesame profile for another 2 months. That's because it takes them time to get that information. So like I said, you're using it as a tool, as a resource to monitor what's going on your credit. Now, even though that information might be a little bit outdated, a lot of times they will give us pings about new accounts being set up, pings about new inquiries. So those you do want to pay attention to. Make sure that if you know that you've opened up an account, then you can say, okay, I know I received that. But if you get something that says that you've opened an account, let's look at pulling your report directly from annualcreditreport.com and making sure that that information is accurate and correct. Always continue to monitor your actual report and your score, and do it as often as you would like, whatever makes you feel comfortable. Don't want you to be paranoid, but I do want you to be aware. So keep that in mind too. And another thing that you want to look at as well is making sure that when you're making your payments each and every single month, of course, payment history, biggest part of your score. So you want to make sure that you always have a positive payment history. A great way to do that is look at making more than the minimum payment. And you can, if you want, do it one card at a time. Sometimes people struggle with, okay, I'm going to put $20 extra here, $10 extra here. I gave them an extra $50 because I want to bring everything down, bring it down really, really quickly. And what happens is sometimes we lose track of it. And that method where you pay more than your minimums, it does work. But if you want to concentrate it, you have more power if you're going to take the amounts that you're paying every single one overage and direct it towards one account. Now you can go with it's always said that the best way to go is either with a card with the lowest balance or the highest interest rate. Totally up to you, whatever makes you feel more comfortable. But you want to do that and apply the extra just to that one and keep it going that way. That's the best way for you to actually do that. Now, it's not easy to do. It takes discipline, but if you need help, counselors are available at 800-994-3328. They can help you get that set up. They can help talk to your creditors, put together an action plan for you so that you can get out of debt, because you need to know what's on your report. You need to know where you stand, and that's the best way to do it. Get advice from the people that can actually help you, and that's familycredit.org. Go online and chat. So think about those things that I shared with you today, making sure that you're keeping your score in good standing, spending your money wisely, staying within your means, and making sure you're making more than the minimum payments. Also, looking at the different types of credit and things like that. So if you've got any other questions, we will be back next week, and we can share with you some more tips, go over some more ways to keep your credit in good standings. Until next week, we'll see you then.